What up team, it is Murderink here, back with another Raid Shadow Legends video. Today talking about Hydra, all things Hydra, the heads, some things that I've picked up on, and a really important message for pretty much everyone watching, which is going to be, do not invest early in any champion for this new content. We simply don't have enough information. Even if we had all of the information, we won't know until it is tested. So keep that in mind. Don't start 6-starring champions. Don't start mastering, booking them. It's just not going to be worth it. So with that being said, the first key takeaway I saw is this right here. If you're not sure what this is the Hydra Head of Mischief, and this is on a YouTube and it was found, whatever. But the point is, to be continued. How official? So usually Player's pretty good with this. There hasn't been an official announcement about this. I'm sure that's going to come quite soon. However, when you see something like this, to be continued, this means a lot can change. I can't really use the word a lot because this can change everything based on how many heads here. We already saw and went over the first Head of Torment in the last video I did, with some pretty clear mechanics here that can change a lot of things for the composition people were going to pick and choose for this Hydra boss, and a lot of it comes down to what is said in the passive here. With that being said, to have a to be continued in the passive specifically doesn't let us know the full extent of the limitations we're going to have with this second Hydra head. So that's a huge point here, and just goes to reiterate the original message I want to say. Don't invest in anyone early. Anyone who thinks they have some 10,000 IQ strategy, I guarantee you they're wrong. They could get lucky and be right, but more likely than not, guaranteeing they're wrong is the much safer approach because we don't have enough information. Now, moving into the third head, which was from a Instagram post, this is even more vague than anyone can possibly imagine. What it says is one of the many heads of the Hydra: ally protect, reflect damage, reduce damage from solo hitting abilities. I don't think it gets more vague than that. You guys can let me know what you think here. So there are a few things I picked up on, and I'm kind of banking on the fact that there are going to be 4 total heads because of the picture I used in the thumbnail, and I did discuss that was released in 2019 when they first introduced the Hydra as a concept. They showed 4 heads, 4 different health bars here. We can see that they can be decapitated. We're not sure if it's going to be unique to the player or unique to the guild overall, or if people are going to hard focus one head, get it out of the way, making it much easier for everyone else attacking. I think that's personally a terrible way to approach this boss. It would be much better if these heads were killable by solo players, which would in fact force us to have to build a team around all 4 heads instead of a specific comp for one head and hoping that head's still alive when you do hit it. I think that's the much safer approach here. There are a few things from the mechanics that we do see in front of us that I think are quite interesting. So enemy max health specifically cannot exceed 10% of the damage. Then we have the first head that we talked about here: decrease the damage all Hydra heads take from AoEs by 10%. Now, unless I'm unaware of the coding here, there are champions who have AoE enemy max health hits, specifically the most broken champion in the game, which is going to be Seer. Now, why is Seer good? Why am I even looking at Seer right now? For a few reasons. Main reason is going to be this second head here: attacks the enemy with the most buffs, steals all buffs from the target, and steals 50% of the target's turn meter. Applies a buff spread effect, taking all buffs from this head and placing them on all heads. Changes the duration of the spread buffs to 2 turns. Now, why is this significant? Because of the way Seer works. Let's head over to Orcs here. Look at our Seer, who is epic. Only according to the game, everyone knows she is arguably the most overpowered champion in the game. Armor burn. So enemy max HP, removes all buffs from allies and enemies, then attacks all enemies. The sleep we don't really care about because it is limited on quite a few bosses. However, let's just go over something really quickly here. I'm not sure if it's this boss where it can redirect. Let me see. Yes, it has a 75% chance of redirecting an enemy attack onto another random head. So let's think about this for a second. We have an AoE enemy max health, doing 10% of the health of every single head here. That is reduced by an additional 10% if this is considered an AoE. Let's assume it is. So I think, my math could be wrong, but I think that goes down to 9% of the total health. Once again, definitely fact check me on that, but I do believe it's going to be around 9%. So now we have 9% of the health on one attack from one champion happening to every single head here, on top of removing all of the buffs on all of these bosses, which clearly can be a big issue with this steal buff and buff spread ability from the second boss here, and then has a 75% chance for this boss specifically to cause one of the other heads to get 2 hits from an enemy max HP hit. Now, I'm assuming by now you're all understanding where I'm going with this. 2 enemy max HP hits on top of War Master that can also proc. That is a massive amount of damage. If it is in fact 18% of the total health plus War Master, that's a significant hit on just one of the heads, not including all the other heads. So let's assume 9% damage across the board here. There's going to be 4 heads here, so 9 times 4, of course, that's 36% of total health in one ability going across all of the heads. Now 36% of course isn't out of 100, that's going to be out of 400%, because you do want to calculate 100% per each boss. And just in case it's confusing, I'm going to whip out this handy dandy paint because I am Picasso. So we have 4 heads here. We have Karma Burn, which is going to remove all of the buffs. So we'll do this, removing all of the buffs, which is good. Now they're buffless, our team is buffless. And we're going to use this purple marker here to signify Karma Burn hitting the targets here. Like I can't do that. Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Somehow this one turned purple. Since I'm explaining it live, you understand what I mean. So we have 4 hits here. Now, the fact that, as I just mentioned here, make this a little bit bigger. Let's say this is the boss number 2 that has a chance to redirect here. The fact that this Karma Burn can be applied to this head, even though it's random, that's a lot of damage going onto one head here from just one champion on your team. Now, I'm not suggesting people would use double Seer for this. I'm just saying a champion as strong as Seer that's usable in all content already pretty safely is going to make her a very strong prospect going forward. Like I said, don't early invest in her. However, Seer is so good that there's no reason not to build this champion if you do have her, because she is good everywhere. Another key takeaway here is she's going to be very easy to build because her damage is capped. What do I mean by her damage is capped? We already saw that enemy max health cannot exceed 10% on any boss here. So with that being said, we don't have to stack her with 300% crit damage. You already don't need attack on this champion as it is, so you can build her tanky, with speed, with accuracy, 100% crit rate of course, then finally as much crit damage as it takes to do 10% of the head's max HP, and then you're fine, making her an awesome candidate on top of the fact that she is void. Even though Karma Burn doesn't hit the target, it's some weird ability that doesn't actually, I don't know, like I said, hit them, so no weak hit could even happen as it is, but she is a void champion, so no weak hit is even possible here. So all of these things together, it's kind of showing how strong some of these abilities, it's kind of just one step in the direction of showing what our options can be when looking at the 3 heads we already have information on. Like I said, I do believe there's going to be 4 total based on the information we got in 2019, so with that final head could change things significantly. But I do believe with a head like this, the fact that we have Ally Protect, Reflect Damage here, and Seer just removing all of the buffs, that's going to make this pretty much useless, unless, like I said, this is very vague. What if these buffs cannot be removed? That's a major question that we all have to ask ourselves, which is why we do need more information before even starting to theory craft anything for this. The other champion that really stuck out to me when I did read this ability right here was also going to be Mashald. We have an AoE, and let me just go to him while I'm talking about him so it's easier for people to see. Steals all buffs from the champion, so every time this guy A1s steals the buffs from a target, Mashald can say, hey buddy, right back at ya. We have a 3-turn cooldown once booked, but we also get an extra turn here. So based on the order of skills that this guy has, being an A1 as well as an A2, it is very possible that Mashald is going to be able to keep up with this champion, making sure Mashald is stealing back all of the buffs that the Head of Mischief is already taking from your team. Of course, there's nothing we can do about 50% of the target's turn meter unless we decided to build resistance. Now, one reason why I really do like this Hydra boss so far is as it appears right now, there's not going to be an optimal speed tune for this team. Now, I could be wrong, so don't quote me on that, but the fact that we have debuffs coming out like Fear, we have the ability of champions removing buffs, stealing turn meters is going to be rather difficult to speed tune a team with so many things that can go wrong, even if we have resistance across the board, because there's always that 3% chance of having your team completely taken out of the tune and causing you to wipe right there on the spot. On top of that, once again, we have no idea what the final Hydra head's going to be, or the additional Hydra heads, if there is in fact going to be 4, 5, or 6. We really don't know at this point. So these were definitely the main points that I wanted to stress and talk about so far. I think the only champion I'm pretty confident in that you're going to want to bring regardless is going to be the Sacred Order champion, Inquisitor Shamael, wherever he is right here, simply for the fact that his passive has no cooldown and he instantly removes the debuff without having to wait for his turn. So this is going to be so strong to counter the Head of the Torment, like I did go over in the last boss. But outside of that, I think everything else is pretty much up in the air as far as what type of team composition you are going to try to make for this Hydra clan boss that is going to be released to the game. Now, I am looking forward to Plarium and when they are releasing their video, giving us all of the information. I'm going to have a fun time testing this guy out. It's definitely going to spark a lot of new interest into the game, which is going to be great for the game overall because we've kind of been stale in content as of lately. And this is a good way to round out the year if all of this content that they do have promised for 2021 ends up happening before 2022. That way they can spend the next year focusing on player versus player, which is one of the most barren and dry aspects of this game as a whole. Alright guys, that's going to conclude my video today. Give me your thoughts. What do you think? If you had to kind of comment on some of my initial thoughts of these bosses, let me know what you guys think. I really don't think, in my personal opinion, as of right now, the Hydra clan boss does not look very difficult. And of course, this can change heavily by the release of the new heads and the finishing of this to be continued, the proper explaining of the skills on the third or whatever number we want to call this Head of Suffering here. I think it can definitely be a very challenging event, but as of right now, I really don't see it. I think a lot of this could be countered very easily with the limited information we do have in front of us. So like I said, I do look forward to the full release of how this Hydra clan boss is going to work. And of course, I do look forward to testing this on the test server to make sure I have as many teams for you guys available as possible. Alright guys, don't forget, if you enjoy this content, smash that like button, subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and I will see you all in my next upload.